What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. We're heading from Sin City to the other desert over in Phoenix for the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. This will take place on Sunday, March 10th around 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll be going short track racing for the first time this season, and we can only hope the racing is a little bit better this year. And they are trying a new aero package this weekend and new tires, so let's hope for the best. And we're also getting a bit of a throwback weekend for practice as we get a 50-minute session on Friday evening, which will hopefully give us a good amount of data to use for the race on Sunday. But anyway, this happens to be your first time here. What's up? My name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Videos on Saturdays, live streams on Sundays, planning for around 12 or 1 p.m. Eastern, so be there, be square. Always a good time. Also, got to give a shout out to my man Joseph McManus for winning last week's comment contest for getting Larson correct at 107.8 points. Just a couple points off, but it was the closest of the bunch. There was quite a few that were very close. So this week, tell me who is going to lead the most laps and how many. Leave that comment down below, and the winner will get a cash prize. Just make sure you don't edit your comment and make it before the race. And if you do enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and let's dive right into it. So let's talk some strategy here for Phoenix. It is a shorter flat track. It's not like super small like Martinsville, but it's also not 1.5 miles, and it's also flatter in nature. You have the dog leg as well. Some of these restarts can be fun. We can fan out 8 wide. Always kind of fun to watch those, but overall not the most exciting track in the world. Although I did think the previous race, which was the championship race in the fall, was pretty good. I did enjoy that one with Ryan Blaney battling Ross Chastain. So hopefully the new package, the new tire makes this racing a little bit better at these types of track configurations. Nonetheless, diameter points are going to be a focal point of this week. Last weekend, we had 260 laps, 267 laps. Diameter points were still very important. If you didn't have Kyle Larson, good luck winning any money. Now we have even more laps this week, 312, which equates to times that by 0.7. I think we're sitting roughly around 215, 220 total dominator points. So yeah, you're going to want the main lap leader in your lineups, and you're going to want 2 to 3 more guys in there as well to soak up those dominator points. I'm recording this before practice, before qualifying, but just like last week, I'm assuming a lot of these guys will be starting closer to the front. Do not be afraid to stack up the front, and obviously get a good mix of place differential in there as well, depending on where guys qualify. And really make sure you're paying attention to practice. With this being a new package, it's going to give us a lot of information this week, especially since it's a longer session, so we should get a good amount of data from that we can hopefully apply to Sunday's race. And finally, moving on to the driver by driver breakdown, I do have to mention one thing first, and that is, of course, if you want to join the Patreon, join the community, links down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. Projections for both sites, my entire NASCAR model, more than I just show you guys over on the YouTube. The behind the scenes stuff, my article going over cash games, tournaments, bets, my betting model, my optimizer, ownership projections, Discord chat that's bumping 24/7, and some more stuff that I probably didn't mention. I do appreciate everyone that has signed up so far. I love having you. And as you'll find out, my prices are very fair compared to everybody else in the industry. So if you want to come in, check it out, say hi. Link is down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. And as you all know, or maybe not, but I'm a partner with Stochastic, and they launched their NASCAR Sims tool, which is a very powerful tool that can help you win on Sundays. You can upload your own projections, mine, or use the preset ones over there and pre-simulate the entire contest, seeing which drivers have the best ROI, which lineups look the best, to help you get off some of that chalk and take down tournaments. So if you want to check it out, you can use the link down below in the description, and make sure you tell them I sent. All right, so qualifying just ended a few months ago, and then obviously we had the practice session Friday evening. And I will say we got a good amount of data from that practice session, although keep in mind there was a couple of cautions. We did screw up some of these longer runs. The numbers can be a bit iffy, so I don't think it's the end-all be-all when you're looking at the practice numbers. And the one thing I will say is that the drivers very majorly said that there's really no difference from last year with this new package, and passing is extremely difficult. So a lot of these guys that probably qualified well should be able to hold ground for the most part, although there's certainly going to be some movers. As you can see, we have a hefty amount of place differential here in some of these bigger name drivers, which will be pretty interesting to talk about. But let's start with the 5-figure range with the man who won last week, dominated last weekend. Kyle Larson, $11,500 on DraftKings, $14K over on FanDuel. He's starting in 17th, which I thought he was going to qualify much better. Obviously, he's had some pretty good numbers at Phoenix in recent memory. And if we're looking at the practice numbers, fired off pretty slow, got better in the long run. I don't think Kyle Larson is going to suck. He should be able to be a top 10, top 5 contender. Does he have race-winning speed, though? I would say probably not, looking at some of the practice numbers. So that price point is probably going to be pretty difficult for me to get there too often. But looking at his numbers at the short flat tracks in the next-gen era, overall, pretty good. Has 2 wins, 8 top 5s, good chunk of dominator points. So we can't write off Larson just because of a practice session. But I will say I don't think I'm going to have a ton of him, because when we're looking at this group, Christopher Bell was the class of the field in practice. He's starting in a similar range, and he's $1,500 cheaper. Then you also have Denny Hamlin on the pole, which you typically want the pole sitter at Phoenix. Those are 2 guys that are probably going to get a good chunk of your lineups. You also have Ryan Blaney, William Byron. So it's going to be really hard for me to say that Yeah, I'm going to plant my flag on Larson last week. That was easy to do last week, and he was the easy plug and play, lock him up in any format, but not really thinking that'll be the case this weekend. We have Ryan Blaney, who pretty much finds himself as a very similar play to Kyle Larson, although I think as of right now, I might slightly prefer Ryan Blaney. I did bet on him earlier in the week at plus 900. These odds are from after the practice session, so qualifying 16th. Probably not going to look too pretty. Honestly, a lot of the bets I made 3 outrights before qualifying, and not really happy with the way my guys qualified outside of William Byron. So we'll see if I have some regret after the race is over. But overall, his long run speed numbers don't look absolutely terrible, and we know how good he is at Phoenix. The next gen era average finish of 2.5, second best average running position, the best drive rating. He's finished in the top 5 each and every single time. He also has the most laps led and the most fast laps. So even though he did qualify 16th, it will be pretty difficult for him to dominate, as track position is very important. So is a good pit stall. But I think once the end of stage 2, stage 3 rolls around, Blaney can be a threat. If he's not going to dominate, I think he can still be a top 5 guy in getting fast laps. And with the place differential, I still think he is in play. William Byron, $11,000. He's starting in 5th. Similar to his teammate Kyle Larson, just didn't really show much speed. Although overall, he was a lot slower. So he was 24th in the 1 lap, 22nd in the 5, and then 23rd in the 10. Put together a really good qualifying run, though, which is good because we know how important track position is at a track like this. And he has had success at short flats and Phoenix in the past. So you can't write him off. He's in the tournament pool. But just kind of eyeballing this price range right now, I feel like I'll end up being the lowest on him. Denny Hamlin, $10,500. He's starting in the pole, and the pole sitter has a very good track record here at Phoenix. It's going to be tough to pass, and as long as he can get out front, he's got his teammate right beside him in Ty Gibbs. If he could dominate at least stage 1, he's got the best pit stall, which is huge at a track like Phoenix as far as being able to maintain positions on pit road, or if you lose a couple spots on the track, you might be able to get your way back up front just based off that really short timing line. But I think he's 100% in play for tournaments or cash games, and yeah, if I'm playing cash games, I'm starting with Denny Hamlin, and then I'll try to figure out someone else to pair him with. Then Christopher Bell at $10,000. He's starting in 13th. He was fast in the fall race of Phoenix before he ended up wrecking out. Yes, I know he was in the Final Four, and those guys are always fast, but it's a very strong track record at short flat tracks in general, although Phoenix in the next gen era hasn't been too kind to him. He only has 2 top 10 finishes and has not led a lap yet, but very fast in practice. 8th in the 1 lap, but then second, first, and first in a 5 through 30 lap run. So he's got a very fast car. And if you want to pair him and Denny together in cash games as a starting point, I don't think I could talk you off of that. They should be very strong on Sunday. Drop it down to the 9K range. You have Martin Truex Jr. at $9,800. He's starting at 11th. Got to be honest, if I had to just pick between the two of Bell and Truex, I'm just going to take Christopher Bell. He starts 2 spots further back, and it looks like his car is going to be much stronger. Truex is also pretty solid at the short flat tracks, but if I had to make a decision, I will lean Bell, but don't write off Truex. He's still in the pool. The optimizer gives you 10% of them. Play 10%. If he gives you 20, well, maybe it's not the worst idea if you're trying to be overweight in tournaments, but not a real strong stance on Truex here. 2 interesting guys that we need to talk about, Joey Logano and Kyle Busch, because as you can see, we have a flash of red here. They qualified quite poorly, so it's going to make them very in play for DFS, at least in play to talk about. Because Kyle Busch, I have some major concerns here about playing him, even though he is very cheap at $9,200. Does have a strong track record in the past at Phoenix, but RCR was extremely slow. So as you can see in practice, he was 31st in the 1 lap, 29th, 26th, and 14th, which not as many guys ran the 15 lap, but obviously looked a little bit better. But if we look at his teammate Austin Dillon, both these guys are just showing absolutely no speed at all. I do think Kyle Busch can be a top 20 guy, but if I had to pick between him or Joey Logano, I like Joey Logano's chances of getting into a top 10 at the very least a lot better. He was much faster in practice, 1st in the 1 lap, 6th in the 5, 4th in the 10, 2nd in the 15, and 2nd in the 20, one of the best cars in the field. So personally, I would rather go with Joey Logano. If people are going to play Kyle Busch and let him get chalky, I think I want to be underweight on that, because if it's going to be extremely tough to pass, I could just see him running in the 20s all day, and that's not going to be a day that you're too happy with. And if you're looking at the numbers at Phoenix in the next gen era, Logano's numbers look a bit better, does have a win and a ton more dominator points. And if you're looking at the next gen era in general, short flat tracks, as you can see, Joey Logano definitely has quite the edge there. Kyle Busch's lone win coming at Gateway. But both these guys might end up popping well in projection systems, but I'll tell you right now, mine will certainly like Joey Logano's better. Ross Chastain, $9,000. He's starting in 12th. Didn't fire off super fast in practice, but the long run speeds look pretty solid. 6th in the 10, 4th in the 15, 3rd in the 20, and 2nd in the 25. Just won the most recent race here at Phoenix, and he wasn't even in the Final Four. So that was a pretty impressive win out of him. Has a pretty strong track record in general. Looking at Phoenix, we have a 4-race sample size, 3 top 5 finishes, good chunk of dominator points, and one of the better average running positions. I think he's a better play on DraftKings because of the price point. Over on FanDuel at $12,000. You can play guys like Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell at a pretty similar price point. So Leaning him on DraftKings, FanDuel. I mean, sure, I'll get to some of him, but do you think he makes sense as either a second or third dominator potential guy in your lineups on DraftKings? Dropping down to the 8K range, we have Chase Elliott, who qualified a bit better than where I would expected. And back in the day, we loved him at the short flat tracks. Chase Elliott was the king of those, and if we're looking at next gen in general, 13 race sample size for Chase Elliott. Some decent numbers. The dominator points are mixed in. Only 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s, though. Decent average running position. But starting in third, he's going to have that track position. And even though he wasn't like a standout in practice by any means, 7th in the 1 lap and then 25th, 15th, and 8th. I'm not saying he's going to hold ground at P3. I'm not even saying he's going to top 5. But if he can mix in some fast laps and finish in the top 8, it might not be the worst play in the world, but it feels a lot safer going with some of the guys that are right above him. So I can't imagine I'm going to have too much Chase Elliott exposure, especially when I can play Yoda starting 3 spots further back and Tyler Reddick at $8,500 on DraftKings, 9K over on FanDuel. Yoda looks really strong this weekend. He's P3 in the 1 lap, 7 to 10, 5th in the 15, and 8th in the 20. So it's like he has the absolute best car in the field. But Reddick's a very talented driver. He has a couple of top 5s here in the spring races in the next gen era at Phoenix. And overall, at short flat tracks, not the absolute most impressive driver in the world, but I do think the speed from Toyota can pay off here for Tyler Reddick. It's not like we're paying an arm and leg for him. He's only $8,500. So I'd hit him as a tournament play. Don't think I'd get there in cash games, though, because of the starting position. Chris Buescher. So he's kind of in a weird spot for me. On FanDuel, he's pretty cheap at only $7,800. I could see him being in play over there for tournaments. And he's a tournament play only for me in general. $8,300. Practice wasn't amazing. 19th, 20th, 16th, 10th, and the 15th, though. I think he can hold that top 15 ground. I don't think many people will get to him. So both him and Brett Keselowski, I'd put in a very similar group to where I don't hate him, but also this 8K range doesn't really have that many bad plays. They're all pretty much only tournament guys only for me, because I think they'll all have some decent speed, but they find themselves in pretty weird spots. Because if you look at the 7K range, we have some place differential, and obviously projection systems are going to like place differential a little bit more. So this is actually a really good tournament range, I think, for all these 8K guys. And I do want to single out Ty Gibbs really quick, because yes, he is starting in second. If you're looking at practice, it wasn't as impressive as the qualifying position. 14th in the 5, 22nd in the 10, and 21st in the 15. But you're still getting a Joe Gibbs card, only $8,000. We talked about this last week. I forget what his price point was, but it was in the 7K range. And as I said, when you can get the absolute cheapest, top of the line team driver at this type of price range that has a ton of talent, you should take advantage of that. And the price is rising, but he is starting in second. But on the outside chance he can get some dominator points, that's a really low price point, and he's in one of the better cars in the field. So do not remove Ty Gibbs from your player pool just because of the high starting position. Dropping down to the 7K range, Chase Briscoe has been incredible at Phoenix. Actually won a race here in the next gen era, 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s with some dominator points mixed in as well. You typically only want to play these Stewart Haas cars at the short flat tracks. Obviously, Gregson had a very strong race last week after a very strong practice session. Fortunately for Briscoe, he did not fire off too well in practice. 27th in the 5, 29th in the 10. Got better in the longer run, but less guys are running longer runs. But still 18th in the 15 lap, 10th in the 20. So there was something there for him. And obviously, he did qualify pretty well. He's great at shifting. So Briscoe, he's in that fringe tournament pool. It's just going to be tough to get there because you have Bubba Wallace starting in 22nd. Very strong car in practice. You have Alex Bowman, who was decent in practice. Then you have Josh Berry, who is starting dead last because he couldn't keep it together in qualifying. And Eric Jones shows some speed as well. So, like, it's easy to say, yeah, I'll play some Chase Briscoe in tournaments, but at the same time, it's not that easy to click on him when you have these other guys with a bit more of a cushion. So, in the tournament pool, probably won't project well as most of these guys in this range. And then Bubba Wallace doesn't really have a strong history at the short flat tracks. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned. Does have 5 top 10s, though, and a 16 race sample size, 9 top 15s. So I'd say it's very likely he's going to be able to move up, and this price range really isn't that tough to get to. And also, if you're looking at practice, 1st in the 10 lap, 3rd in the 15, 4th in the 20. So he's got a decent car. But you can't always just completely remove track history. And I know a lot of people probably have a bad taste in their mouth after last week where they couldn't get the lug nut off the car, and he ended up finishing many, many laps down. It wasn't a good day if you owned Bubba Wallace. Starting in 22nd, though, he should be able to move up. Same for Alex Bowman. You can pretty much say the same exact thing. Didn't have as strong of a car, but should only be able to move up. Daniel Suarez probably going to finish pretty close to where he starts, so I don't have any real interest there, especially with all these other guys he is priced around. Josh Berry will certainly be a cash play. He's starting in 36. There's really only way to go, and that's up. Now, if you ever told me the 4 car was going to be starting dead last at Phoenix in the 7K range, he would be about 100% owned the past decade. Obviously, no more Kevin Harvick. It looks like Berry had a top 25 car in practice, and while I'm not expecting fireworks here, he is pretty safe. But he's far from a lock. Like, there's other fine 7K guys, so I don't think you have to absolutely play Berry in tournaments or anything, but cash games, yeah, it makes sense. Eric Jones, $7,000. He's starting in 4th. pretty fast in the short run in practice. I think him and John Hunter Nemechek had some really good short run speed. Started off a little bit. Starting in fourth, I'm going to have a hard time getting to Eric Jones. Yes, I know track position is pretty important. Maybe he hangs within the top 10, but I don't think I'm going to be able to click on him too often. If I'm playing 20 max, 150 max, I'm sure he's going to filter in a little bit, but single entry, I'm probably going to have to pass there. Ryan Preece, $6,900, starting in 27th. If you're trying to pivot off of Josh Berry, he's an option, I guess. These Stewart-Haas cars tend to run pretty well at the shorter flat tracks, and if you're looking at practice, I would say he was slightly faster than Josh Berry, but honestly it looked pretty similar. When I can play Berry starting 9 spots further back, it's just hard not to play Berry at that point. Austin Dillon RCR, I think I'm going to be out on them this week. They just look extremely slow. Michael McDowell qualified for him. Can't see myself having too much interest. 13th in the 5, 18th in the 10, which is not bad for his price range, but when you qualify inside the top 10, it makes it pretty difficult to get to. Noah Gragson starting in 7th. I would say he probably outqualified as well. 26th, 28th, 28th in practice. Again, the Stewart-Haas car is going to be pretty good at the shorter flat tracks, but it's going to be really hard to hold that starting position because, yes, great spot, track position is important, but you're going to have much better cars that have to work through their field. You have Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Chastain, Busch, which I don't really have too much interest in Busch, but Joey Logano. These guys have to move up, and these are the most likely guys that are probably going to end up moving down because of that. John Hunter Nemechek starting in 19th. I could see him having some ownership because of the practice numbers, 4th, 5th, 3rd, and 16th, but I'll be honest, he probably is going to run around 15th to 20th majority of the day, which is not awful at his price point. I'm just not expecting a ton of place differential there. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 car based off what we saw in practice. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's starting in 20th. I could see him having a pretty similar day to John Hunter Nemechek. I would probably prefer John Hunter just a little bit more, but they are pretty close. Corey LaJoie is going to pick up some ownership. He's at $6,300, starting nearly in last. I could see a lot of people playing LaJoie and Cindric together for their cheap plays and loading up on some of the top dogs, which I think is perfectly fine. If you had to pick one, I will side with Austin Cindric. He starts one spot further up. He's $100 cheaper, and he was much faster in practice. And Penske tends to run well with these track types. And if you're looking at practice, P5, P3, P10, compared to 18, 23, and 27. So both will be popular, but I do have a slight lean on Cindric there. Then we have Carson Hocevar, who pretty much qualified where he practiced. He was 10th in the 1 lap, 7th in the 5, and then 9th in the 10. Fell off a bit in the 15, though, 25th there. And it's going to be pretty difficult for him to have a path to being optimal, because if you look at the guys right above him, Corey LaJoie, Austin Cindric, if they just don't screw up, they should have a decently easy path at their price points. Carson Hocevar, I'm not going to say has to have an absolute ceiling race, but he's got to get somewhat close to it, because there's some good cars mid-pack, and they're going to have to try to get through Carson Hocevar to get where they want to be, and they're probably going to be able to do it. So I would say it's really likely he finishes lower than where he starts. But if you're trying to get off the chalk, I mean, if Hocevar can hold a top 12, top 15, kind of like we saw last week, I don't hate it from an ownership standpoint. But projection-wise, I don't think he's going to be too close to them. Dropping down to the 5K range, pretty ugly down here. Harrison Burton was really the only one that showed a resemblance of speed. And, he's kind of like that Walmart Penske car out there, so maybe he will have some life. But Gilly, slow, 30s across the board. Zane Smith was really slow. I thought we'd have a little bit more speed out of him. The long run speed looked a little bit better, 22nd in the 15 and 13th in the 20. So I guess if I had to play anybody in this 5K range, Zane Smith and Harrison Burton might be the ones I get to. Other than that, it's bad. Daniel Hemrick, I know he qualified well in 21st, but overall the numbers don't look too strong. Justin Haley looks slow. Derek Kraus and Cascarla are also very slow. So for me, if I had to play anybody in the 5K range, Zane Smith, Harrison Burton, probably the ones I'm getting. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys this week. So I hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Do not forget to comment down below who you think leads the most laps and how many. And the winner, obviously, will get a cash prize in the comment contest. If you want to check out the extra content over on Patreon, you know where to find it. Link can be found down below. Hopefully, I will see you all in the live stream tomorrow around 12 or 1 p.m. Eastern. I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.